Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. I am your host, Paulie DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today will be the part 4 in my Wrath of the First Lantern crossover review known as the Final Era. The entire event was created by a plethora of amazing talent, all going down in 2013. Well folks, we've made it. After the 2 videos this week, the massive Green Lantern family crossover will be complete, and the Geoff Johns run in this wing of the DC universe will end. The entire gist of this event revolved around the mysterious Vol.3, or the First Lantern, a being from a completely different universe and timeline, charging himself up with emotional electromagnetic spectrum energy in order to become the ultimate reality warping god. And after the previous 12 issues I've covered in Green Lantern New Guardians, Green Lantern Corps, Red Lanterns, and Green Lantern, he has succeeded. More on that in a moment, because for where I left off in my Part 3 review, all things have led up to this finale, so I'll give the rundown quick. Most of the Green Lantern Corps plus Yeda Fatality Sinril are on the new and improved Mogo, ready for battle. Freshman Green Lantern Simon Baz and veteran GL Badge have teamed up with Carol Ferris and White Lantern Kyle Rayner, all now ready for battle. Sinestro lost his home planet Korugar, but gained a Yellow Lantern. He destroyed his original in a previous issue, so it's unclear where this one came from, but alas, he's very ready for battle. Then there's the Red Lantern Corps, who were rallied by their leader Atrocitus, and now they're all preparing for battle. One person who isn't ready for anything though is Hal Jordan, taking his own life with Black Lantern Corps intentions. A good or extremely awful decision? Let us find out in the special 30-page edition that concludes this story. Green Lantern number 20 apparently begins beyond tomorrow as stated, and it starts with a detail of Green Lanterns officially gaining their full Corps status with an oath quote, and the first thing young Tortoise does is ask the bookkeeper of Oa if he can hear the story of Hal Jordan, which is kept in a novel almost as big as Jordan's ego, so that's pretty apt. Next up, there's a quick montage of Hal's history from a rebirth, referencing the character's return in 2004 and the time he went absolutely ballistic under the control of Parallax. More on that name later, because Coast City was never destroyed in the New 52, and in the end he purged himself of the evil with help from the friggin' Spectre, which did really happen in 1994's Zero-Year Crisis in Time, a moment many Green Lantern fans like to omit from memory, but like everything else shown in the following 2 pages involving his adventures with all the color corps to the very moment of this story, it matters most when the part of Hal killing himself in Green Lantern number 19 comes to the page. That is present time for us, and it's clear his lethal idea was successful in the Dead Zone, while False Sinestro is seen in space still mourning the loss of his entire planet Korugar and deciding to remove his Green Lantern ring for good, officially returning him to the Yellow Lantern Corps he created thanks to his new lantern that I still have no idea where it came from. And that coincides with Hal's corpse seeming to actually be accepted into the Black Lantern Corps. My oh my. Moving on, the Templar Guardians are seen on their home planet of Maltus, which begs the question of how did they get out from the Chamber of Shadows? It was clearly acting as a prison, and they were locked in there since the Rise of the Third Army event when they got introduced. Simon and Badge too, since I'm on the subject. I mentioned this in my last review. They just showed up in Green Lantern New Guardians number 19 to help Kyle and Carol. Guess there wasn't time for any escape scenes. Vol.3 is now seen with the imprisoned Guardians of the Universe on Oa, and he's also in possession of the Great Heart obtained in Red Lanterns number 18, which contains the Guardians' emotions they gave up eons ago, leading into a bit of story time pertaining to Vol.3's past life in a separate timeline with associates discussing a piece called The First Lantern, and he looked pretty normal here, but his fate would intertwine with things the GOTUs did when Krona tried to witness the beginning of time, which he was ultimately cursed for, thus creating what is known as the First Ring, and supposedly this object implanted in Vol.3 gave him his current kind of freaky look, and mixed with the First Lantern, it may have answers to the question: what is the purpose of life? Before there's a chance to even think about anything though, Vol.3 starts reaching down the one-time most likable Guardian Ganthit's throat, pulling out the recently mentioned First Ring. Then this seems to give them their emotions back. Maybe that has something to do with the Great Heart, because Atrocitus said he was going to give the emotions back to them. Except the grotesque moment ends when Guy and John arrive with the entire Green Lantern Corps ready for the final battle. However, the First Lantern has his first ring back, meaning it's gonna be one hell of a fight. Yes, that's a lot to take in, but we gotta stay on pace here. Over in the Dead Zone, Hal Jordan did exactly what he told his old Green Lantern buddy Tomar Ray he would do, as in committing suicide, and after that, use his willpower to force Blackhand's ring onto himself. No deep explanation or really strong reason, just some good old plot armor. Willpower, thus granting him Black Lantern Corps leadership status, which also causes William Hand to dissipate into nothing, meaning he's officially gone for good. A bit anticlimactic for a villain of his caliber to go out like that, but okay. The next thing Hal does is contact Indigo 1 and her Purple Core of Compassion, asking for assistance. The Indigos can tap into every other color, so that's how she can hear the black message, but anyway, Atrocitus and his Red Lantern Corps make their big arrival to Oa, spewing their napalm breath, and Atroci, like the raging bull he is, goes straight for Vol.3, snapping his neck as if it were a stalk of celery. However, Mr. First Lantern is borderline invincible now, retaliating with his own overwhelming attack. Another exciting addition comes though when Carol, Kyle, Badge, Simon, and the entire Blue and Violet Lantern Corps hit the scene. Even a Green Lantern called Nort, who debuted in February 1988's Justice League International number 10 by Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis, is here. Plus, there's a little hint to some future Red Lantern stories when Atrocitus actually wants to work alongside Guy, since Gardner was a Red before. Guy also has the idea to shoot out a concentrated blast of ring energy from everyone present, which is amplified by Mogo, resulting in a highly intense offensive strike, only for it to be practically shrugged off by Vol.3. Damn. There's not really a chance for him to counter this time around due to the latest player to join, and that's the vengeful Sinestro, using all his Yellow Lantern ring has before being halted by Vol.3, almost removing a piece of his soul regarding Korugar, but the whole moment is cut short when the Indigo tribe teleports in, allowing Indy 1 to announce the final entrant to this climax. And judging by Carol's facial expression, you can guess who it is. Ladies and gents, I present the Black Lantern's newest leader, Hal Jordan, emerging from the dead zone with an army of zombies at his command, giving us a seriously wicked double-page spread. I am not kidding, this is some epic artwork. Kyle, Carol, and Sinestro are quite shocked to see what Jordan has done to himself, but in a bit of an "oh, okay then," the first Lantern eliminates the Black Lantern Corps without an issue before reaching into Hal's soul to search for the young child within him, who wants only one thing, and that's to see his father Martin again, with this emotional memory producing a huge amount of energy for Volthoom. And with these sights, Thal flies away with his own new plan. Better hurry up, because Volthoom now seems to have unlocked access to the Hand of Universal Creation, which has Kyle cracking under the pressure and power, so Sinestro finds his Yellow Lantern Corps central battery that was brought to Oa in Green Lantern Corps Volume 2 after Hal helped its creator shut it down in Green Lantern Volume 1, all in order for him to call out Parallax, who lives in this thing due to being the embodiment of fear, and in the New 52 we'll see later in the GL family of titles that this powerful creature has others like it. But for now, Sinestro forces Parallax into himself, thus getting an intense upgrade in costume, complete with a distinguished looking skunk strip in his hair. Thalax then goes on to immediately maul Volthoom, clawing and even drawing blood from him, except he effortlessly showcases his First Lantern status is not something to take lightly, snuffing out this onslaught in seconds. So there goes Sinestro's big idea, it appears, meaning it's back to Hal, who returned to the dead zone, where he winds up meeting his dad in the end, who gives him the courage to unleash the one, the only, the Master of Death, Nekron. Basically, he's the Black Lantern Corps version of Parallax, and after Jordan asserts his dominance over him, he, I guess, cleverly loads Volthoom up with blacklight energy, thus turning him into an overgrown Caillou-looking human due to all the emotional electromagnetic energy being drained out, allowing Nekron to then slash Volthoom into oblivion, releasing a visceral shockwave, leaving only his aforementioned first ring behind that seeks out Hal, of course, just as he has a special moment with his father in some type of Nexus zone. And with him now as the strongest Green Lantern, he banishes Nekron away by simply saying, "Piss off," pretty much. Sure, why not at this point? Things are far from over though, as Hal gets a big old long-awaited hug from Carol because the Guardians of the Universe still have to be dealt with, and Atrocitus demands to Gardner that they be handed over to the Red Lantern Corps, but Sinestro is way ahead of them, going on to reactivate his entire Yellow Lantern Corps that he shut down and imprisoned on Oa in Green Lantern number 6, so Kyle knows that it's a distraction since Thal has already gone after the Guardians, warranting Hal to chase after him, leading into another sweet double-page spread. Feels like just yesterday these two were sharing a ring. A vicious battle then commences until Hal admits that all he wants to do is not give up on Sinestro and wants to save him. Sheesh, you truly felt those words, with them actually causing tears from Sinestro, while Atrocitus rips through a bunch of the yellows in order to get to the Guardians first. However, Thal has a bit of a Watchman Ozymandias moment, saying his plans to kill the little blue guys that he's spoken of already happened a few minutes ago. But he did save one for Atrocity. A rather gruesome yet sad scene also went down, with arguably the favorite Guardian Ganthet wanting to die, and thanks to Parallax's power, the task was done. All of this coincides with the conveniently timed arrival of the Templar Guardians, who were last seen on the planet Maltus, but more important at this second is Sinestro asking Jordan about a question he was going to ask him long ago when the two were trapped together, and that question was, were they ever truly friends? To which the answer is, of course they were, and always will be. I don't know about y'all, but that was extremely satisfying to read. And with that, Sinestro vanishes into the universe, leaving the Yellow Lanterns in Archelos charge as we jump forward again in time, where this issue began with the bookkeeper telling Green Lantern Snow, wait, I thought his name was Tortoise in the opening pages. Whatever. The Templar Guardians wound up taking their former evil family member's place, and we next get to see Geoff Johns' interpretations of what happened to all of our main players, shown by the bookkeeper. Kicking off with Guy, he aged into Sons of Anarchy Ron Perlman, hanging out in bars and knocking out douchey punk rock aliens in a single punch. John Stewart and Yira Sinril stayed together as a couple, with Johnny becoming a respected political leader. Kyle Rayner became a... I don't like making this comparison, but I mean, with the look he chose to go with, he pretty much is a galactic Jesus Christ, healing those who seeked his White Lantern abilities. Simon, meanwhile, became the main Green Lantern of Earth, even training the first human female Green Lantern named Jessica Cruz, because apparently she got the ring when the Justice League died. Well then, a rather loaded piece of narration there, but moving on, the Red Lantern Corps stayed under Atrocitus's leadership, the Blue Lantern Corps grew to new heights under Saint Walker, Indigo 1 even became so compassionate that she was able to go on in life without her purple ring. And then there's Larfleeze, who supposedly traded every possession he had to free his long-lost family, but in the end reverted back to his greedy ways. Finally, there's Hal Jordan, who married Carol Ferris, having a baby boy together named Martin after his father, and even the Justice League got to meet him. What about Sinestro, you ask, though? Well, apparently the bookkeeper burned his pages long ago, but the bookkeeper's hand is shown suspiciously looking like Sinestro's, which could be an ominous hint this is Thal underneath the hood and cloak. He also gets a final scene having met up with Orange Lantern leader Larfleeze for a secret trade of reuniting the spared Ganthet and Saeed, who survived her Rise of the Third Army death scene. How? I don't know, and I don't care, because in the end, the two Guardians are told to disappear together, while the official moment Hal received Abin Sur's Green Lantern ring is given in commemoration to him becoming so important to the Corps. Then, with one last beautiful double-page spread of art, I can officially say, the end. Alright, I'm gonna begin with art, and it's pretty obvious the artists involved put something extra into this finale. It was one gorgeous illustration after another, the coloring work, a massive array of character designs, and fight scenes that made up most of the issue were some of the best you'll find throughout this title. Then there was the single-page close-ups and the double-page spreads containing some of the most uniquely important and striking images in Green Lantern's history. Next up, for dialogue, it had to tie everything together about what was going on in the quartet of Green Lantern related series in the New 52, and basically we were given huge answers to the entire mythos and inception of this DC universe, coupled with some very worthwhile narration pieces pertaining to Hal Jordan, the one and only. Aside from that, the individual interaction between all the characters had to garner appreciation. No one seemed left out. Everyone got in mixed chats, some familiar, others we don't see often enough. Honestly, this type of story end puts in the case that the collection of these seen here should have more arcs together. Everyone, the blues, the yellows, the violets, the purples, everyone. Now, of course, I gotta finish with plot, and I'm gonna be upfront about my thoughts on Volthoom. He wasn't the best or most intimidating villain out there considering his build-up and all. He spends the whole event powering himself just to be eliminated by Necro Jordan, who's been absent for a lot of issues. Either than that, I did enjoy this conclusion. The advanced character development Sinestro got was top 5 for villains. The way all the color cores banded together came off quite inspiring. Everything available got used. Actually, everything aside from the Orange Lantern Corps, who for some reason is missing. Also, the climax that saw the Guardians of the Universe biting the dust could have been figured out earlier due to the Templar Guardians being introduced in the Rise of the Third Army. They were getting replaced by these new ones. As for the future stuff, you can take it however you'd like. They were just perceptions from one writer with some foreshadowing parts. The thing I'd take away from it is maybe a storyline seeing all the DC heroes in their later years. That's gonna wrap up this review for today, and if you've watched until the end here, I want to personally thank you for that, and to please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for Swamp Thing Volume 2.